We see this mistake happen over and over again. A founder sits down to pick their commerce platform, and instead of looking closely at what their team can actually manage on a random Tuesday afternoon, they pick a platform that, like, flatters their identity.
Oh, totally.
You know, you want to see yourself as this fiercely independent open source rebel who owns every single line of code. So you choose the software that matches that self-image, only to realize 6 months later that the daily maintenance is just completely destroying your operating model.
It's the ultimate trap in commerce.
Right.
You're trying to make this foundational business decision, but you end up operating entirely on ideology or maybe just marketing speak.
Yeah.
And you're completely ignoring the cold, hard realities of maintaining a living, breathing database.
And getting you out of that trap is the entire mission for today's deep dive. We are looking at a really extensive 19-minute analytical guide titled Shopify versus WooCommerce: How to Choose Without Regretting It Later.
Such a good piece.
It really is. And we are completely bypassing those endless, paralyzing feature comparison lists. Instead, we're going to decode the fundamental structural differences, the true hidden costs, and the gritty operational realities of these two platforms. Because picking the right engine requires understanding exactly what kind of mechanic you are signing up to be.
Right. And to do that effectively, we have to start right at the bedrock. Before we even glance at pricing tiers or checkout features, we must establish that Shopify and WooCommerce aren't just different software options answering the exact same question.
Right.
They represent a fundamental architectural fork in the road regarding how you approach the internet entirely.
Okay, let's unpack this, because if we don't understand the architecture, literally nothing else about the pricing or the features will make any sense.
Exactly. So at the most basic structural level, Shopify is a managed product. You are effectively renting a highly optimized, closed ecosystem. Shopify handles the hosting infrastructure, they manage the content delivery networks that route your images around the globe, and they patch the server.
They just do it all for you.
Yeah, behind the scenes. Now, WooCommerce is fundamentally different. It is an open source toolkit. Specifically, it's a commerce plugin bolted onto WordPress. You bring your own hosting environment, you secure the server, you install the database, you own the entire stack.
Wow.
And crucially, that means you own every single failure point.
Shopify is like leasing a fully furnished, high-end apartment where the super fixes the plumbing. WooCommerce is like buying a plot of land and a stack of lumber. I mean, you can build a castle, but if the roof leaks, it is 100% on you.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
Right.
And what's fascinating is how that exact difference plays out deep in the code bases. Shopify deliberately constrains you.
How so?
Well, they force developers to work inside a proprietary templating language called Liquid. And Liquid is essentially a sandbox. You can change how things look, but you cannot write custom back-end server queries that might accidentally take down the primary database.
Ah, I see.
Because they restrict what you can break, they can guarantee uptime, and they can push global platform updates on a Tuesday without shattering your storefront.
So the limitation is actually the feature. You trade absolute control for acceleration and stability. But with WooCommerce, because it runs on PHP and you have direct, unfettered access to the MySQL database, there's no sandbox at all.
None.
Yarrow.
You can edit the core logic of how the shopping cart calculates complex taxes by diving straight into the PHP files.
Which sounds great for flexibility.
It is incredibly powerful for highly complex business models. But mechanically, it means when WordPress pushes a core security update or your payment gateway updates its API, your custom PHP modifications might suddenly conflict.
Oh boy.
The entire system is brittle by design. That is why you are the one on call. You are acting as the systems administrator.
Which introduces a massive invisible burden that most founders just don't anticipate. And that brings us to the money, right? Because building from scratch comes with hidden invoices.
Always does.
Wait. WooCommerce is literally a free open source plugin. Shopify plans start at $39 a month and go up to $399 or even $2,300 for Plus. How on earth does a subscription beat $0?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the concept of free software in the commerce space is a highly dangerous myth. You cannot look at the download cost. You have to evaluate the total cost of ownership, the TCO, over a multi-year horizon.
Okay, so what does that actually look like?
Well, the source we're using runs a brilliant 3-year TCO model that completely shatters that $0 illusion. They modeled a mid-market business doing $240,000 a year in gross merchandise value with a standard $50 average order value.
That's a very standard baseline for a growing brand. So what is the 3-year financial damage there?
For a Shopify basic setup, and this factors in the monthly subscription, premium theme, and the essential third-party apps required to run a modern storefront, the total 3-year cost lands at $30,924.
30 grand over 3 years. And the completely free open source alternative.
For a managed WooCommerce environment capable of handling that exact same transaction volume without crashing under load, the 3-year cost is $35,700.
Wait, really?
Yes. The free option is actually nearly $5,000 more expensive.
We need to dissect the mechanics of that invisible $5,000. I mean, what is a merchant actually writing checks for if the core software is literally free to download?
It breaks down into infrastructure and highly specialized labor. First, you need enterprise-grade managed hosting. You can't run a $240,000 commerce engine on a shared $5 a month server.
Right, it would just collapse.
Exactly. You need dedicated server resources, which models out to roughly $1,800 over 3 years. Then you have premium plugins.
Like what kind of plugins?
Advanced shipping calculators, tax writing software, robust security firewalls. That is another $1,800 in annual licensing. Plus, you inevitably need a specialized PHP developer on retainer for back-end debugging, adding another $2,400.
That adds up fast. But I imagine the real killer is the labor hours, right? The source mentions 90 hours of operations time over those 3 years. That is more than 2 full weeks of work solely dedicated to just keeping the lights on.
Right, and what exactly are they doing during those 90 hours? They are acting as a database administrator. Over time, a WooCommerce database gets incredibly bloated.
Just from normal use.
Yeah, the core tables fill up with transient data, abandoned cart sessions, old plugin revisions, expired cache files. The site progressively slows down, so the merchant has to manually optimize the database tables, configure server-level caching tools like Redis to keep page load times down.
Sounds exhausting.
It is. They have to run staging environments to rigorously test updates before pushing them live, and constantly audit security logs.
Yeah.
The source values that internal labor at $4,500.
Yeah.
So, in reality, a healthy Woo store actually costs between $150 and $600 a month to run.
So you aren't avoiding a software subscription, you're just opting to pay a maintenance tax instead.
Exactly.
But to be fair, we have to look at the other side of the ledger. To ensure balance, Shopify has its own hidden trap, doesn't it?
Yes, it absolutely does. Shopify is not a benevolent charity. The trap is their platform transaction fee, and it's a severe penalty. Shopify wants you locked into their financial ecosystem, specifically Shopify Payments.
Right.
If you use a third-party payment processor, say you have a legacy contract with a specific merchant acquirer, or you use Stripe or PayPal instead, Shopify adds a platform surcharge ranging from 0.5 to 2% on every single transaction.
Wow. And that scales brutally as your volume grows. I mean, if you're doing $1 million in GMV, a 2% penalty is up to 20 grand a year. That surcharge alone utterly eclipses the highest software subscription.
Precisely. Neither platform is truly cheap at scale. It is merely a question of how you prefer to pay your bills. Do you pay in internal engineering hours and infrastructure, or in transaction fees and ecosystem lock-in?
Right. Since both platforms actually cost real money when fully scaled, the next logical question is, what is that money actually buying you in terms of performance and capability? Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the source points out that WooCommerce's structural advantage is mostly just WordPress's advantage.
That's a critical distinction.
Yeah, so I have to ask, if you strip away the WordPress blogging ecosystem, does WooCommerce actually win on pure commerce?
If we isolate just pure commerce functionality, no.
Yeah.
Shopify decisively wins out of the box in several key areas. First is speed to launch. You can spin up a Shopify store over a weekend, whereas a proper WooCommerce build takes a week minimum.
Just to get the basics working.
Exactly. Then there's native internationalization via Shopify markets. It handles multi-currency and duties all in one product. To get that on Woo, you're stacking multiple plugins like WPML and Alia, which gets messy. But critically, the biggest win is checkout.
Shop Pay, right.
Yes, Shop Pay outpaces other accelerated checkouts by roughly 10%, and its presence drives a 5% lift in lower funnel conversion.
A 5% lift is massive.
It alters the unit economics of an entire business.
I mean, it's about the network effect, right?
Yes. When a consumer buys from any Shopify store and opts into Shop Pay, their details are vaulted. When they visit your independent store for the first time, the platform recognizes their device, texts a code, and the checkout is completed in a single tap.
The friction just drops to zero.
Right. WooCommerce simply cannot replicate that because every Woo store is an isolated island.
But there are places where WooCommerce decisively wins, right? What are those?
Oh, absolutely. Content-led commerce. With Gutenberg and custom post types, if your business is heavy on editorial content, Woo natively lives inside the world's most powerful publishing tool. Shopify's blog is intentionally basic.
Right, so if I'm a publisher first, I'm sticking with Woo.
Without question. The other win is total data ownership. You can export your MySQL databases anytime. Shopify rate limits their APIs so you don't have that raw access. And self-hosting flexibility, you can run a tiny shop on a $15 VPS if you want.
So if we frame this for you, the listener, if your business is 40% driven by editorial content and you have fewer than 200 SKUs, Woo is your winner. But if you are a solo operator doing 500 grand, Shopify's conversion engine and zero ops reality pays for itself.
100%.
We've covered the build, the cost, and the features, but day-to-day, month-to-month commerce isn't just about features, it's about maintenance. What happens at 2 a.m. when a Black Friday traffic spike hits or a vulnerability is found?
This is the true operational reality. On Shopify, they carry PCI DSS Level 1 compliance.
Which is huge.
Massive. It's the highest global standard for securing credit card data. And they push continuous non-breaking updates for you. When a traffic spike hits, their engineers scale the servers dynamically. You just watch the seals roll in.
But on WooCommerce, you're playing sysadmin.
Yes. You must manage, let's encrypt SSLs, perform word fence or security audits, and this is the terrifying part, you play plug-in conflict roulette.
Oh, I've heard about this.
Let's say two vendors push updates. Suddenly your checkout breaks right before an email campaign fires. You're losing money by the second, and you have to dig into PHP error logs to find the conflict.
That sounds like an absolute nightmare. So if the operational burden is that heavy, is there ever a scenario where embracing this 2 a.m. sysadmin panic is actually the smartest business move?
Surprisingly, yes. If you have an engineering-led team that needs bespoke B2B pricing logic, say complex net term discounts that would force you onto the $2,300 a month Shopify Plus plan to access their custom checkout APIs, then building that logic into WooCommerce PHP saves you a fortune.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the other scenario is strict data sovereignty. If your industry requires absolute privacy and non-SaaS data ownership, WooCommerce is the honest, necessary answer.
Wow. Okay, so summarizing this deep dive, the golden rule from the source really seems to be default to Shopify for the speed, security, and conversion edges, unless you have a highly specific, concrete operational need for WooCommerce, like that bespoke PHP logic or a content-led WordPress foundation.
Exactly. And my advice to you, if you're leaning toward Shopify, is to use their $1 a month trial. Don't just look at it. Build a real catalog and test the checkout on your phone before committing. Feel how smooth it actually is.
That is great advice. I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over regarding the wrong platform trap. If you are currently fighting your platform weekly, don't let the fear of migrating hold you hostage. The source notes that a migration only takes 4 to 8 weeks, and the main deliverable is just a redirect map.
Which isn't that scary.
No, it really isn't. Ask yourself, are you underestimating the true daily cost of staying on a platform that doesn't hit you, simply to flatter your identity as an open source or anti-SaaS brand? It might just be time to map those redirects.